So our first part of our March overview is our beautiful March chalkboard, but pay attention because I know y'all have some sharp children who love to notice things, and there's some story to this March chalkboard, so some things that you are going to want to keep in mind. So beautiful March chalkboard, of course, features Lady Spring, who has come to wake the flowers by playing her flute. Now I just love this depiction that Nathaniel did of Lady Spring. He actually lived in Japan for a few years, and so when we were thinking about personifying these seasonal noble characters, he got to see just how beautifully Japan celebrates and honors spring with the Sakura Blossom Festival. So it felt very fitting to honor that culture in this way and have Lady Spring be this beautiful Japanese geisha, and I think she is just lovely. So she is gorgeous, and of course we have the rainbow, the beautiful clouds and crocuses and all of this beautiful scene. But you will notice that if you're looking for some of your favorite characters, especially fairies, you might notice a few differences. So this chalkboard was done back in, I think, our first year when stories were still kind of coming together. This was still when the stories that Nathaniel was writing were just being told to our little classroom. They hadn't really been fully written yet. We were really still figuring out who these fairies were going to be and what their names were going to be and what colors they were going to be. And so you'll see this is kind of a fun kind of look at the journey that we've had and how things have changed. So there are a few differences between what you'll see depicted here and the characters that have kind of been solidified in the stories. And so you'll see some differences. So I'll explain those so that your children won't have to be confused. Eventually, he does hope to update this chalkboard and make those adjustments. But of course, we've been focused on finishing summer and finishing all of these things. So for now, this has been what it is. But I'll kind of take you through a little tour of some of those details. So some of the fairies, of course, are accurate. So a great little example here, we have Petty Palm with Sapphire and Ruby. These are just as they are written in the stories. We also have Pearl and Puddle Bloom here, beautiful Pearl. A little fun fact, back when this was drawn, Pearl's name, we had her actually as Madame Butterfly before she got her name as Pearl, but we ended up settling on Pearl, which we just love. So that's another little backstory there. You have Rudabug here climbing the tree up to Petty Palm's house. You have Citrine in all of her loveliness here, and she is exactly as she is in our final stories. And Amber here. Amethyst is here. We did end up darkening her hair a little bit, but she is still the purple fairy right here, so that's pretty close to accurate. Just a small detail here, but the main differences you'll see are these two fairies up here, and then of course the sky, which I'll get to. We, our first kind of round of fairies, we kind of thought we were going to go towards more the fairies being representative of the colors of flowers. So you won't find emerald here, so that's why emerald is not here, and why this little white fairy is here. But then we ended up switching to the colors of the rainbow, so we decided to add green and not have white, and Pearl kind of represents both white and indigo. So this little fairy did not make it into the final fairies, and you won't see emerald here. And then up here we have our pink fairy, of course, which you know of now. We have our pink fairy is our little toddler Pixie, Turmoline, and this was before, this was when our daughter was like a baby, so she wasn't really a toddler yet. By the next year, she had become this sweet little toddler, and we were like, this pink fairy needs to be a pink little toddler Pixie. And so then Turmoline from then on has been based on our own daughter, and you'll see she takes a central role in some of the March stories, which are very sweet and hilarious. But pink fairy right there is kind of a grown-up pink fairy instead of our sweet little Pixie Turmoline. And then our leprechaun, you actually will not find the leprechaun in our stories. Again, this was kind of an idea of what would happen if a leprechaun visited Wondergarten, but as we continued to build the world, it just kind of didn't make sense, and it kind of felt like this random forced thing, and we just didn't love how those storylines were playing out. So there is no leprechaun in the March stories. Of course, if you want to make up your own little story of if a leprechaun visited Wondergarten, you're more than welcome to do that, but the leprechaun did not make it in our final stories, and so eventually we'll update this. But you do, in the Colorful Beard story, get a picture of Rudabug, of course our green gnome, with an orange beard, which is kind of a nod to the leprechaun. So that is kind of the differences we have. We still have some beautiful representations of March here and some of our beloved characters, but some differences, especially in the fairies and of course the leprechaun. So if you have curious children looking for emerald or looking for Pixie Turmoline, that is what you'll find. And if they're curious about where the leprechaun is in the stories, that is why he is not there. So that is our overview of our March chalkboard. Otherwise, it is just gorgeous. And again, one day I'm sure Nathaniel will give us an update, but for now, it's kind of iconic and it is lovely.